about teamwork. It's about working hard. It's about having that discipline. It's about having that faith that you can accomplish anything that you want to accomplish.
Well, good evening, everybody. Alan Slaughter-Zinski with the Brevard Sports Network. And I tell you what, this interview here this evening, I'm excited about. I'm very excited about. In fact, when I found out from Coach Matt that this was a possibility a couple of weeks ago, I started to get excited then, and then finally was able to confirm it. And here we are. Obviously, we're recording this, but here on a gorgeous Sunday afternoon in Brevard County, in the beautiful Brevard Sports Network studios, I have with me here today a guy that I've always looked up to. Now, I don't particularly care whether he's mayor, county commissioner, or whatever. He's always going to be Coach to me, Coach Diesel. But for the sake of proper introductions, please, it is an honor for me to welcome the first time into these studios, because it's certainly not the first time I've interviewed him, the mayor of Titusville and running for Brevard County Commission Seat 1, Mayor Dan Diesel. Mayor, how are you?
Well, I'm good. Thank you for having me. I am blessed to be in the presence of you, but I got to be honest with you, your studio overshadows you. there is history on these walls, and I really love that. I have a room, as my wife can tell you, at my house that is similar, but I think this one surpasses what I have. There's nothing like having memories and history, and you have that here, and really great to be here.
Well, I tell you, it's because of guys like you and people that I've met along the way that have allowed me to cultivate this history and these relationships. So let's begin there, relationships. Let's talk about that, because you have, Titusville, in terms of coaching football anyway, Titusville, Space Coast now at Cocoa. In Matt's ear, of course, your son, Matt Diesel, is the defensive coordinator for the Cocoa Tigers, and we'll get to that. But, Coach, you've done so much through the years. I mean, you were a coach of the year, an athletic director of the year, a Hall of Famer. As you look back on your time, and still going strong, by the way, talk about the relationships you've cultivated along the way, because I know how important all of them are to you.
I remember being asked after I allegedly retired in 2018, what do you miss the most, or what would you miss the most? And it was the relationships. It was the relationships with the players in particular, but the relationship with the coaches. You hear it all the time, and it's not just me, and it's not just the high school level. It's every coach at every level. What do you miss? You miss those relationships. You miss being with your team. You miss being with your position. You miss sitting in on the coaching meetings. You miss the ups and downs with your coaches and players. So the relationships are just second to none. I remember coming to Titusville High School, back to Titusville High School, where I graduated from, back to Titusville High School in 1983, and Al Wernicke was the head coach coming off of a state championship. And again, you never thought, okay, that's Coach Wernicke. He was my coach in high school. I'm never going to have that kind of relationship with him. But sure enough, there was a relationship with Al Wernicke to the point that in his latter years, when he was on my staff, nobody quite understands that, but I brought him back to my staff in 1995 when he had some physical ailments, and he lived in a condo on the water at Indian River Lagoon. And I would take a son with me every Monday night to allegedly go watch Monday Night Football. But every single Monday night, we ended up on WWE. and the point I'm making is that's a memory. I talk about your room in here and the room that I have at my house. It's about the relationships. And something as simple as that, I wanted to go make sure he had somebody to talk to. He was living by himself. I wanted to make sure he was okay. And we were going to watch football. But you know what? We watched, I can't remember what the club was called, but it was WWE wrestling. And we would go over there every Monday. And, man, and he says, you mind if we flip over to the wrestling? So just relationships,
no doubt.
things.
and they're always so important. And I tell you, you know, I wonder when I look at the way the landscape of high school sports have changed today, and I go back. What year did you first start coaching?
1982 at Cookeville Junior High School.
Okay, so 1982 you began coaching. Here we are in 2024. So between now and then, the changes in rules and safety, and I mean even now with NIL and things like that, the amount of change that you have seen, but you still have such a passion. You know, I see you on top of the roof, you know, in the press box. And we talk all the time during the season. I'm quite frequently found at Cocoa football games, as all of you remind me. So tell me, how do you feel about when you see student athletes now able to earn money on their name, image, and likeness compared to 1982, 1996, 2007?
Well, before I even do that, let me reflect back. You talked about being at Cocoa and on the top of the roof of the press box, and I've been blessed to do that for 4 years, going into 5 years. When I was first asked by Matt to come coach at Cocoa, the first thing I said was, "No, I'm good." You know, I helped him at Space Coast while I was the head coach, but I'm good. Well, next thing I know, I've got pretty much the entire defensive staff over at Matt's house, and I come in and basically, hey, come try it. I said, okay, I'll give it 2 weeks. The point I want to make there is the relationships, because in 2 weeks, I fell in love with those kids at Cocoa High School.
Yes.
And I got to be honest with you, I don't know that I thought I would. I don't know that, they're clearly, like I told them when I got a chance to speak to them, I said, I knew you guys were talented. I knew I'd come to Cocoa and find talent. I didn't realize what a class act I would find. And so what I'm saying is relationships at Titusville High School, there's nothing deeper to me than those relationships. And when you talk about calling me coach versus mayor or whatever, every kid I've ever had says, you know, I know you're mayor, but I will always call you coach.
Right.
And I always tell them I'll be coach a lot longer than I'll ever be mayor. So what I wanted to say was, then at Space Coast, the great relationships with the players and coaches there. And it just almost doesn't matter where you go. It's about the relationships. Some things in football never change, because when I thought about this, what I might say with you a little bit, there's a lot of changes in football, a lot of changes in the X's and O's, a lot of changes in the talent and the speed and all of that, and the NIL, et cetera. But the one thing that doesn't change are the relationships with the kids. I have found that the kids appreciate and admire someone who respects them and cares about them. And I get real excited about the fact that, I'm in my 42nd year of coaching. I'm 66 years old, and these hip kids at Cocoa High School come over to shake my hand and pat me on the back when I show up. That means more to me than anything else I do in coaching.
Well, that's the answer to the question about the changes then, isn't it? Because it doesn't matter what's changed, because what hasn't changed is your passion and love for these kids.
Absolutely. There's a passion for the kids. I love the competition. I feel blessed to be at Cocoa right now because we're playing against the best high school football teams in the nation.
Yeah.
How cool is that? Let's face it, somewhere along the line, I'm in my last years doing this. And to be able to have done that and to do it with my son and the kids at Cocoa High School, and Coach Schneider, who has allowed me to be there, it's been a real blessing. I do want to say that there's some interesting aspects about the NIL. Certainly, without getting into names, numbers, or anything else, but certainly our quarterback has the ability to be big in the NIL, and some of the numbers I hear tossed around, I'm like, what the heck?
Yes.
And then Hilson at defensive end, and we've got some kids that are big-time NIL types, and that just blows me away.
I asked a coach the other day, I said, why did this individual decommit from this school to go to that school? And the coach said to me, and I quote, one school offered him $40,000, the other school offered him $140,000.
Wow. And I will tell you, I've heard some numbers that are higher than that. That I don't get involved with that. It's not got anything to do with me. I'm going to go out there and coach and do my thing, understand what's going on in the field so I can tell the guys on the headset what we got going on. But I'm very happy for anybody that can get something working like that. But what I want to make sure it doesn't do, and it certainly hasn't with the kids at Cocoa that I know of, don't change who you are.
No.
And I feel like they appreciate it when I talk to them like that, because, you know, I've done this a long time. I've been blessed to, early on at the Titusville years, to have kids go to Michigan, Ohio State, Purdue, Florida State. I've gotten to coach big-time kids down there. Didn't have any NIL, and nobody was getting the 6+ digits. But I will tell you this, the main thing is don't change. Be who you are. Be the best person you can be. And, you know, the money is the money.
Wait,
I get it.
We know about your, you know, obviously your coaching career. And what about you as a player? Talk about that for a minute.
I can't remember. That was I had an interesting run to get in and to do college. My senior year of high school, God love Al Warnick. He was being good to the band. They were moving into a new place, and so I'm helping them move band equipment, have a big rack behind me.
And you're Terry, so everybody knows.
Yeah.
He's talking about Titusville High School. Go ahead.
Played at Titusville High School under Jack O'Brien, and then Al Warnick came in my senior year. So we're moving band equipment. Somebody jumps on the back of a rack, and it runs up my heel and cuts my Achilles tendon. I was being recruited heavily, and it really seemed to me, if I had to say, it was either going to be Florida State, Georgia Tech, or South Carolina. I'm not going to say there's thousands of schools out there, but those were the ones, even coming down and visiting me at Christmas, etc. But when you slice your Achilles tendon, your ability to move is limited your senior year.
Yeah.
So I went off to Iowa Lakes Community College, and I played there, and then ultimately ended up at Tennessee Tech for 3 years, 78, 79, and 80. And had a wonderful career at Tennessee Tech. While I was at Tennessee Tech, right before we moved to Tennessee Tech, actually, I got married to my wife, Barbara. So I lived in married housing when I got there. So we had a little different thing. Now during camp, I was in camp.
Right.
But it was wonderful. I played offensive tackle. You know, couldn't have been happier. Cookeville, Tennessee, and Tennessee Tech was so very, very good to me. I actually had an opportunity to sign a contract with the USFL, the Denver Gold, and my insurance agent was actually my agent. And I remember being over there, and I had a chance to had a signing bonus of $500, and I'm all excited about doing that and everything. But I still got like a year left to get everything done in my education. I lived in married housing, and by this time, I'm ahead of the game on this stuff. I had my first son, Matt. So the question was, do I? You know, if I move and go to this tryout and everything else, they got to move out. I lose, and I had some work study stuff going on, so I was supporting them, and I was so close to graduating. So the bottom line was, I decided, okay, we'll put that off. And it was USFL, so at that time I didn't think it was going to be a whole lot anyway, and it did go down. But I also learned a lot of people from the USFL got a chance to move forward.
Right.
So that was probably my closest stint to making it beyond college. I had a really good career. You know, made an all-conference team and all that sort of thing. It was good. I had a wonderful time, and I got my education. So then I got Al Wernicke called me, and then the principal called me and said, "Hey, we got a job down here. You can coach freshman football and teach PE."
What year was this?
1982, 83 was my
Okay,
first
so it was
year.
right
I graduated in spring of 83.
So it was around that time they were winning those state championships.
They won their first state championship. I was at Tennessee Tech.
Okay.
And then the second state championship, I was the head freshman coach, and then Charlie Griffin and I were the scouts. In those days, how football has changed, we were all over the state, from Palatka to Bartow to got to see Michael Irvin play down there in Fort Lauderdale.
Wow.
We were all over the place scouting for the state championship games. And I think that all the time. I said, you know, there's nobody doing any scouting anymore. We get the video the night of the game.
There it is.
And in those days, you had to scout because you didn't get the film of that game because it wasn't ready.
It took time.
You had to literally scout that game and chart every play and tell them what they're doing, etc. So you felt kind of important. But, things have changed a lot. The other thing that changes a lot is trading a film.
Right.
You know, people don't even remember that. I mean, I go back, I used to, when we would go scout, we would take 2 previous games and trade it with the people on the bench. And then I'll never forget, we went over to St. Petersburg and traded with them. We had film, and they wanted to trade VHS tapes. So I'm going way back now.
Yeah.
VHS, people are like, VHS tapes. But that was like a big deal. Like, we don't have VHS tapes. They almost didn't want to trade with us because we didn't have VHS tapes.
Wow. I want to ask you about Titusville now, because we watched Titusville go through a period, a down period, an extreme down period. And we've watched John Holmes come in and do some remarkable things in the short period of time that he's been there. And I've always said that, at my time covering sports here in Brevard County, I guess if you get the right coach in there, because Titusville is such a community town, and I don't know that people understand, you just can't put anybody in there as the head coach. So what has John Holmes been able to do, in your opinion, that others couldn't before him? And and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody that was there before him, but Holmes has had success with this program, and I know you love to see it.
Well, I can tell you that John and I have had lunch more than 3 or 4 times, and every time I text him or something, and he's got a line. At first, I thought he just kind of said it, but he's got a line that if I text him and say, "Hey, John, you want to do lunch?" he always comes back. He says, "Don't threaten me with a good time." So that's kind of his line. He's very affable, very easy to get along with, very humble for the college career that he had and the things that he's accomplished. State championships at Rockledge, et cetera. I consider him to be very humble. And maybe that's one of the first things you got to do. Don't come in there and say, "Look at me." He didn't do that. Reminds me, truthfully, of Al Warnicki a lot that way. Al Warnicki came into us from Belglade, having won state championships, and gosh, you never would have known it. But I said a lot before I even knew Coach Holmes. I said over and over, the first thing Titusville has to do is keep their athletes.
Correct.
Because, I've been, hell, I was a head football coach longer than anybody in the history of the school, 13 years. I coached there for 35 years. I played there. I know that place. I know Titusville. There is a talent there, but that talent was in all kinds of other places helping other teams do well. Now, I'm not saying that's good, bad, or ugly. I'm not going to get into all that because, let's face it, this day and age, you can play anywhere you want.
That's exactly right.
But I will say that the first thing that John did was he got people to say this is the place to be. He got people to believe that Titusville is the place to be. And I remember him kind of, I won't say doing recruiting, but that's what you got to do. You got to recruit your own kids these days.
Right.
And that is make them believe that this is the place to be. This is your home. And he did that. And I couldn't be prouder of him. I couldn't be prouder of the community. I get to keep up with him very closely in a lot of ways. Be honest with you, upstairs when I'm up there with Matt, and I'm upstairs I'm checking the Titusville scores, and let's face it, for a few years it was
I know you are.
It was rough to check the Titusville scores, and now, and I told John, and sometimes I text John.
You've asked me, do I know?
Yeah, I ask you, what's the Titusville score? What's the Titusville? That's important to me. It will always be important to me.
And how are you going to feel? I got to ask this question. Last year, you know how the community, and I love the fact that the community talks, but it's coming week 1. When you're standing on top of that roof looking down, knowing what they've done here and what you're coaching here, how you going to feel?
Well, I will tell you the worst in the world. The very first year I was with Matt at Space Coast, now let's remember, I gave my entire career and life to Titusville.
Right.
But at the same time, when I retired in 2018, retired from Titusville High School, Matt goes off and he's a head coach at Space Coast. That couldn't have been weirder. I never coached anywhere at Cookville Junior High in 1982, but I never coached anywhere else. I never went in any other locker. I mean, it's all Titusville, all the people I know, all the players I know. So I'm at Space Coast. Well, the very first gosh dang year, we got to go to Titusville. And I will tell you, it's really absolutely true. And we had to do it last year with Coco.
Yes.
And I told... probably Holmes, but I told somebody that I'm never doing that again because it makes me sick in my stomach.
It's weird, isn't it?
Now, this year, at least, I will just be in my regular spot on Matt's headset on the Coco thing, and I don't have to go back to my home.
Right.
Because let's face it, when I go back to Titusville's field, or if it would have been Dre Field, that might have been even worse.
Yeah, oh, my goodness.
But it's how you feel. You feel like, I'm Titusville Terrier. I love the Coco Tigers. I'm with Coco now, and I want to make sure that any of the Coco people get that I'm giving everything I've got to what I'm doing with the defense and Coco Tigers, Coach Snyder and Coach Matt Diesel. But at the same time, It's obviously the answer really is simply it does. And Coach Snyder has great empathy for me and gets it. It does. It gets me ill to think about it.
I bet.
I love Titusville and I love the kids at Copeland. I'm gonna work hard to do my job.
Here's what I want to know, and I don't know if people know this about you, but yeah, I'm sure a lot of people do. But let's throw football completely out of the equation. You've coached everything from golf, tennis. Didn't you coach tennis?
No, I didn't coach tennis.
Golf.
I did coach. I coached
golf.
Boys golf, girls golf. I use the golf as a great example sometimes if coaches get real cocky about their coach of the year here and their coach of the year there. That's great.
Yeah.
But I was a 4-time.
I know. That's what I was going to say.
Cape Coast Conference Boys Golf Coach of the Year. And I say, you know why? I had great golfers. I mean, let's be honest about it. Whoever had that team could have been Coach of the Year. Now, I'm not taking anything away from people who were Coach of the
Year.
I get that. But for me, it was kind of a laughing at myself a little bit. I did a good job. We got discipline. We didn't have a lot of discipline on the golf team when I first got there. I'll just say that they did some fishing off the golf course a few times.
No doubt.
So, that being said, I do think it brought structure. But that's, point I'm making is I was blessed to do that. But certainly my second sport I coached 15 years coaching wrestling. Both my sons wrestled, and I wrestled at Titusville High School as well. So I coached wrestling for 15 years. I coached JV baseball for, I think, 5. I coached ninth grade basketball for 11. And really and truly, all of it, it's so much about relationships. I coached boys and girls track separately. The oddest one people think, and rightfully so, is you were the boys and girls golf coach. I had a good time.
That's amazing. Here with Coach Dan Diesel, Mayor of Titusville, running for Brevard County Commission Seat 1, the northern part of our state. Brevard County, I believe, is the longest county in the state from north to south, isn't it?
I think it's like 79 miles.
Yeah,
long.
79 miles. So you are running for the seat that's north of that. Before we get into talking a little bit about that, the family man that you are, I know you love being a husband and a father, Matt, Travis, and Scott, and, of course, Miss Barbara, and grandfather. Talk about that part of your life, because I've been blessed to see you as that, and I love it, and so talk about it.
The more you talk, the more people realize how old you're getting to be. But no, you really have. You've been there through so much of it. Again, so much of my coaching, even now, I mean, if I'm to be totally honest about it, I'm probably not coaching right now if it's not for Matt. I mean, I've loved coaching with Matt, and who knows, maybe it'll be an opportunity. My last couple of years, I got another son coaching now. He's at Titusville.
Yeah.
Scott's coaching at Titusville. Well, who knows? Maybe I can get on Scott's headset over
there
there
at
at Titusville and not have to get upset in my stomach when I got to go play over there. But, I go back to, I said it a little bit already, but I met my wife at Titusville High School, and we got married. We were youngsters. I think I was 21, and she just turned 20. Then we went off to Tennessee Tech University together and had Matt. And basically from there, we came back to Titusville High School in 1983, my homecoming of sorts. Coached the freshman football team at that time and freshman basketball. And I think I did girls track that year as well. I will say this, that's another difference in athletics now. Players and coaches both used to do a lot more sports.
Multi-sport athletes.
Multi-sports athletes and
coaches.
multi-coaches.
Right, correct.
I mean, it was, Al Wernicke was the head state championship football coach, and he always coached at least 2 sports. Now, his sport was golf because he loved to golf, but he coached golf, and matter of fact, I think he even helped with softball at one point. But the point I'm making is you don't really see that much anymore.
Right.
I can't imagine, a head football coach these days running around doing what I did. I'd get done as a head football coach, with our last game or whatever it may be, and I'd be right into a wrestling tournament that weekend, and I'd coach wrestling all the way through, and then the next thing you know, I'm in track.
Right.
So, but anyway, back to the family. I don't want to leave that out. I'm so blessed to coach all 3 of my sons at Titusville High School. Matt and Scott in particular. I got to coach Matt and Scott in both football and wrestling, especially Scott, because Scott was a heavyweight, and I was in the heavyweight corner for obvious reasons. I didn't coach at 152 so much like Matt was. And then I got to coach both Matt and Scott in JV baseball. And when they went to the varsity level, I was not there. That was Coach Bendrup. But, coaching to me, I hear coaches all the time say to me, well, I'd like to coach, but I got to spend time with my kids. Well, if your kid's playing a sport, I can't think of anything that enhances a relationship more than coaching them.
Right.
Then, like I just told you earlier, Scott, my son Scott, is now coaching at Titusville High School. When he gets done at Titusville High School, he goes across the tracks to the Gibson practice field, and that's what we used to call it because we used to practice over there at Titusville High School. But his son, also named Dan, I like that. We call him Dan. But anyway, he's playing for Junior Terriers. So Scott's coaching the Titusville Terriers High School and helping with the Junior Terriers. That's about 4.5 hours of football every day after work. So, but again, it enhances the relationship. And Scott used to work second shift, so he couldn't do that. And I can tell you that how enhanced their relationship is from him being part of the coaching staff is second to none.
When I walk into, I still to this day always get nervous when I, before a broadcast, especially before a big broadcast. You guys play a tough schedule, and so when I walk in and I'm walking up the steps and I'm always out of breath and I'm always looking for a couple of friendly faces that will settle me down, just to say hi and smile and wave. And two of them happen to be members of your family. The first, Tom Bracken's one, Cyril is another, and then your wife, Miss Barbara, and McKenna.
Yeah,
I see those four.
Right.
I'm able to say hello, smile, relax, and by the time I get in the press box, I'm good. So the Diesels help me relax right when I get into the press box there.
Yeah, you're a little bit like me, and I got to see you sometimes because, I tell people all the time when I'm going up there, and I'll stop and talk to people, and I tell them, I'm stopping to talk to you so I can catch my breath.
Right.
Every year I get older, it gets harder to get
It
to the top
does
of
get
the
harder
press
to get
box,
up those
especially-
steps.
And then some of these ladders they have you climb on the press box to get upstairs. It's like, holy cow, they're trying to get me out of here.
Before we get into talking about a little bit of the political side of this thing, it's no secret you and Matt are you got one hell of a football team over there in Cocoa, and schedules are tough. It's to me it's like it's a college atmosphere the way it's run. You and I have discussed this. The way it's run, the number of coaches, everybody's responsibilities, the players, the work ethic, all of it. When you look at Cocoa this year, what do you see for this team?
Well, being the old coach, and Coach Snyder and I talk about this sometimes, I never had, as a head football coach, I loved my teams. But I want to tell you, I'd never been around teams with this kind of talent, perhaps since when I was assistant in '83. Certainly winning the state championship back-to-back, I always compare. And that '83 team, as I recall, maybe more than anything, was so very physical. Defense, it was just knock your head off, and they were players. So it's great to see this, and I would, again, we've got some kids who are dealing with NIL stuff. I'll be honest with you, the flip side of that is that NIL stuff can just be another thing a kid's got to worry about. Don't misunderstand me; it's great to have.
It is,
but I think I said a name earlier, but I'm really not trying to get into names and things like that. But we've got a couple kids that are just so great kids that are dealing with this NIL stuff. And they've got families that are good support groups to keep them right.
And it's not even them so much seeking it out as people seeking them out.
No, it's not. They don't seek it out.
Yeah.
It's
people coming after them.
But I was very concerned about our schedule, but I was last year too.
Yes.
And I look at Snyder sometimes and shake my head, but then I got to realize who the heck is going to come out and want to play Cocoa if you don't have to.
Right.
So, that's when you end up with the, Aquinas and the Venice and, all the teams that we're playing, the IMG Academy. Like, holy cow. That's when I say to myself, you're blessed to be here in the latter stages of your career to play the best high school football in the nation.
Yeah.
And so I'm very excited about that, but it's also easy for me to say that we are one of the best high schools in the nation. I love the way Coach Snyder and the entire staff, work together. And I say this in all candor, there are no egos over there on the coaching staff. I've been around smaller staffs and this staff or that guy. I can't find one guy over there that's concerned about what's in it for them.
And I've also been told everybody busts their butts for their part.
Oh, my gosh. And there's such pride in every position. And I'll tell you what, we may be playing one of the best. We probably are playing as a defensive coach. We're probably playing the best offense that we're going to see all year, or at least one of the best offenses we'll see all year. And the offense is seeing the best defenses they're going to see all year. And I want to tell you what, it gets hyped out there when you're playing, because every kid on that defense wants to be the best and not let the offense get the better of them. And same for the offense, which makes us better every day. And I can tell you, you could sell tickets to what goes on out there as far as the intensity of practice at Cocoa High.
No doubt about it. Here with Coach Dan Diesel. Now we're going to flip to Mayor Dan Diesel. And obviously we're recording this on a Sunday. It's being run on tonight, a Tuesday night. 1 week from today are the elections. And you're running for Brevard County Commission seat 1. Before we talk about that, I know I've asked you this before, but for those seeing this for the first time, why did you want to make the transition to politics in your life? Because at the time you did it, it wasn't the thing to do.
No, I'm still not sure it's the thing to do. And I tell the story because it's so clear to me. I never thought about getting in politics, and as a matter of fact, I don't even like that word politics. I'd much rather call it difference maker, because it's real easy for people to sit in the stands and tell you what play you should call.
Right.
It's real easy for people to sit in the stands and say, why'd you do this or why'd you do that? Things are a lot different when you're down there on the headset or up there in the headset and you're making the call. So if you don't, as Willie Taylor, one of my former wrestlers and football players, says all the time, now he's a Titusville police officer, don't talk about it, be about it. Don't talk about it, be about it. If you want to talk about it, that's great. Go up there in the stands and there you go. I don't want to be in the stands. I don't want to be a spectator. I want to be on the field and I want to call plays. That being said, it all happened when I was getting ready to move into retirement. I was in the drop program, so I knew it was coming. It was 2016, probably the 2015 Christmas parade. I was a facility assistant principal, so I was working the parade being launched from Titusville High School, helping to line them up, kind of keeping everybody in order, what you're supposed to do. You can't do this, can't do that. And then Walt Johnson, who was running for mayor at the time and was a council member, said, so, because obviously I'm known for being busy. And
I like Mr. Walt. I did.
Great guy.
Yeah.
And he said, so what are you going to do? When you get done, retire. I said, I'll be honest with you, it's kind of an anxiety attack to me, wondering how I'm going to continue to make a difference, because my whole goal in life was to make a difference in kids' lives.
Right.
And I had that tool as a coach. I taught biology for 13 years. I was blessed to be Teacher of the Year at Titusville High School in 1994, teaching biology while I was a head football coach. That was kind of cool. So, I said to him, I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to make a difference. And he looks at me, and he's sitting on his, getting ready for to go off in the parade. So he's sitting on his, I don't know, Corvette or whatever it was, but he's sitting up there on the convertible. And he looks at me and says, why don't you run for council? That was the first time it ever crossed my mind. So it's not like this kid grew up thinking, I got to go into politics.
Right.
I want to run for this. And I see people like that. They've been trying, they're thinking about it. I didn't think about it a long time.
As a difference maker for the city of Titusville, city council, mayor, what are you most proudest of?
I think kind of bringing our city together and to believe in themselves. Now, I got to be honest with you. I said this when I was a coach. I said it was an athletic director. And I certainly have said it as a mayor and city council person. Some people are just happy or being unhappy. So don't worry about trying to make them happy.
Right.
But overall, I think I've brought our city together after I speak everywhere I go. First, I make it very clear, whether it be the chamber or a church or whatever, I say to them all the time, don't expect people to believe in the city if you don't.
Driving up US 1 the last 8 to 10 years through Titusville is completely different than it was when I first moved here. The infrastructure and, all of the things that have come to Titusville are incredible. It is truly feels like I've gone someplace else, because being down here and then when you get to Titusville, a lot of times, as you know, if you live in the south part of the county, you don't go to the north part of the county a lot. It's weird here, but that's the way it goes. But when you do go, I love what I see up there.
Well, and I kind of, in my talk with this too, we're no longer the sleepy little town east of Orlando, the slow-moving town south of Daytona. We are Titusville, and I have the people
like that.
say that. We are Titusville, and we'll do that 3 times. And then at the end of that, I'll be honest with you, we are Titusville, and I'll end it with, damn it. Because I have the same issue, and you're very candid with that, and it's true. When we host the League of Cities and the mayors all come up and we have it at Dixie Crossroads for obvious reasons, everybody wants to go there. I tell them, and I give a PowerPoint, before the talk or before the dinner, because I want them to know that we are no longer the same town we were when you may have last been here.
Right.
Because most people, as you said, they don't drive through Titusville.
No, they
but
don't.
if you do, you'll realize it's not the same city it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And I was blessed to get on the council in 2016, and we are not the same look we were in 2016.
I worked in Titusville for 3 years. I worked for UniFirst.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I worked for UniFirst for 3 years, and when I made the transition to Space Coast Daily is when Titusville really began their boom, and I can remember coming back and, matter of fact, I actually have gone up there to shop. I love going up there to shop. I love the shops up there, because, I just...
And restaurants, we got...
Yeah, I love it up there. Absolutely love it. What would you do? Would there be anything you would have done different?
As far as being the mayor?
Yeah.
Or that?
Yeah, anything.
I don't really think there is, and I hate to keep going back to this, but there's just certain things come to me, and Al Warnicki always said, after you do something, he says, never go back and second guess it. So, and to be honest with you, I don't have a great answer to what I would have done different. I really felt like coming in, what I needed to do, and I had the ability to do that with my position as a coach, was to get our city, whatever percentage I could touch, to believe in itself. And to understand that we are no longer that sleepy little town. Stop acting like that. Certainly, I would say this: if we had more funding, so if I was to say something, because we now have a $40 million infrastructure project going on, we got a $9 million infrastructure project going on to move the pipes, the sewer lines away from the Indian River Lagoon. We have basically just getting everything off the Indian River Lagoon that doesn't need to be there, including septic tanks. We are getting all the septic tanks, people who have them on the river, out. And unfortunately, I've always said the Indian River Lagoon's like a big fish tank, and I can clean my part of the fish tank, but if the people don't clean their fish tank over here, we still got a problem.
What can you do? Right.
So fortunately, the word is from people who know what they're talking about, and we are ranked number 1 in the county, in the county with completed projects for the Indian River Lagoon. We've got 15 completed projects. And
that's amazing.
And we do, and I'm very proud of that. And the second place isn't even a city; they're the Brevard Zoo. Third place is Cocoa Beach with 5.
Wow.
So,
wow. I mean, it's not just a little bit either.
No, we're getting a lot done, and we're way ahead of the curve of what was. And this all comes off the half-cent sales tax to save our lagoon. And those are the people who came up with these reports. And I got it right the first time, messed it up the second time. We have 12 completed projects. I said 12. Then went.
So it's actually a tax that's being used for what it's supposed to be used for.
Right. So if I was to change anything, I would look closer into how we could spend more money on infrastructure. But let's face it, 2020 came along, and city manager and the gang do a good job making a workable budget. But, why are we spending $40 million on infrastructure now? And I'm very pleased that we are, because let's face it, every city in this nation needs infrastructure updates because we couldn't afford to spend the money we needed to before.
Yeah. I think one of the things I learned covering politics in this county was a lot I learned covering, and I'm going to use your word, difference makers in this town, was that the jump from, say, local politics like a mayor of Titusville or Palm Bay to a county seat is tremendous.
Yep.
It truly is. And I don't think people understand how big of a jump that is. Talk about why you want to make this jump.
Well, first of all, I will say that I think that every position has a time limitation.
Sure.
Head football coach or whatever else it may be. And I really feel like 8 years, I've been 8 years on the dais, 4 as the mayor. If I ran again, and I felt really good about winning if I ran again, that'd be 12 years.
Right.
I just think that's That's too much. So I was pretty much ready to do something else no matter what. Other than that, I would say the biggest thing I want to do is be able to represent. Like you said, it's very different being on a city council where we're all focused on
Yes.
one area. I think I have the best training in the world to be a county commissioner from being an athletic director. Because an athletic director, I was a Florida Athletic Director of the Year, which only simply says I was there long enough to get an award. Anyway,
No, you earned that one.
So what I'm saying is that,
You earned them all.
so I appreciate it. But what I'm saying is I remember being as the athletic director, we had the north area. So myself, an astronaut, and generally it was Tim Sparkman, who's passed away, as Space Coast. We might get Cocoa. And then you've got the voting block down here, Vieira, Melbourne, Satellite, O'Galley,
Right.
etc.
Oh, yeah.
And we were always on the losing end of votes when it came to something you wanted in the south or the north. I kind of take that personal, and the point I'm making is one of the biggest things I want to be able to do is be the representative that has enough relationships. You can't just go in there with a hammer, but has enough relationships to get other people on that. Because whatever you want to do, you can. Every candidate can say what they're going to do. But if you're going to be a county commissioner, you're not doing anything without 3 votes. And if you don't get 3
That's
votes,
true.
if you don't get 3 votes, you're not getting anything done.
Now-
And so what I want to make sure I can do is represent the North area with class, dignity, and enough conviction that we make everybody understand, and I don't say this with any animosity, but it comes across, and it came across to me when I was an athletic director. Some people just think the county ends at 528.
Yeah.
The county does not end
No.
at 528, and when you drive down our US 1 or Highway 50, you can see that we have grown, and we have thrived, and we have strived,
Yes.
and we have led, and we deserve to be represented in a way that we get 3-2 or 4-1 or 5-0 votes and says, you know what, Titusville needs this in recreation. Titusville needs this in infrastructure. Titusville needs this in roads, maybe not
Right.
necessarily city roads, but county roads. So what I want to do is I want to represent in a way that we get our due.
You are, you've had a different kind of I think you had the campaign when you ran for city council, right?
Yep.
You weren't unopposed as mayor, correct? Now you're running against, I think 5 or 6 people here, and so what separates you from your running mates?
I would say, and it's kind of come out in this discussion, and I said it just yesterday at an event, nobody has been more involved and more thickly and deeply related with relationships in Titusville, Mims, Port St. John than me. Simply, outside of Astronaut, and I'm very close with Astronaut, the principal was a Titusville High graduate, the dean's a Titusville High graduate. I know them very well, and I'm very fond of Astronaut and their staff and their kids now. I love going to their graduations and their events, but no one has heck, I've coached at Titusville High School, and matter of fact, Titusville High School is my life. And then I've coached at Space Coast High School. I was even the campus monitor for a year during COVID year, and then when that went down, I said, I'm done. But I lived in Port St. John for 10 years on Fay Boulevard. I moved to Titusville in 1965. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad. My dad came here with the space program, was laid off like 4 different times, so I get that. And now I'm never into my life did I expect. I'm going into my 5th year of helping coach in Cocoa, which is also part of our district. Nobody knows or cares any more about our district than me. No one's been here since 1965. No one's seen the space program's ups and downs like I have. No one's seen how the roads can be dismal. So why am I different than them? My life has been different. My life has been all District 1.
And the relationships that you have cultivated,
Absolutely.
are absolutely incredible. This is embarrassing to me. I used to know this, but I don't know if it's been redistricting. I'm not sure what district I'm in. I think it's
You may be District 5.
5. I think I'm District 5. But I will
District
tell
5.
you this: if I could vote in District 1, you'd have my vote, Coach.
Well, I appreciate that.
You definitely have my vote.
When you'd have mine, no, I can't.
Coach,
I'll get in trouble if I say anything like that. But
Coach, I do. I appreciate you, and I appreciate our friendship, and I appreciate you've always been so kind to me through the years, and even when I was starting out, when there wasn't a lot of coaches that were willing to talk to me, you always were.
Oh.
And I can't thank you enough for that. And you are, let me say this, you are absolutely what is right about Brevard County, and I appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much, Alan. I appreciate you, and I've said it to you before. You are that guy that makes a difference in our community, and that's making a difference is what it's all about. And boy, you talk about relationships. You've got them up and down the county, and probably all over the state. So I feel blessed that way too. Through my coaching and wrestling coaching and football coaching, I feel like I do have relationships up and down the county. And again, ultimately, we are Titusville. I say that all the time. But I've also said, and I say now, we are Brevard County.
Yes.
In my case, we're District 1, but ultimately we're Brevard County. And if we're going to get this thing together, we got to do what I say in coaching all the time. It's a we thing, not a me thing.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to fight for the District 1 and make sure that we get things done the way it needs to be done.
And I just looked it up. I am District 5. I had to look it up. Excuse me, Coach. Good luck on getting another one of these this year. I know you guys will be right in the thick of that. And want to thank Miss Barbara for coming as well here today. And Caleb, of course, if you've ever been here, you know that it's a small area with which to get all of this set up. And it may look like we're sitting in some sort of a huge studio,
Yeah, it does.
but we're not. And I want to thank Coach Diesel. And I tell you what, whomever you vote for, just vote. Just get out and vote. That's the key to what
August
we do.
20th. Let me say that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, you kind of already said it, but
Yeah.
I've had so many people come up to me. I'm so glad they do, and former players, and even had some people at church today. Well, we got you covered, Coach. And come November, I'm like, whoa.
Whoa, August 20th.
August 20th.
Right.
A week from Tuesday. It's right here.
Yeah.
As we say, it's game time.
It is definitely game time. And, it's game time for election here, and it's game time for high school football here, which you'll see Friday night right here on Brevard Sports Network.
Real quick, I got to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll get in trouble by everybody if I don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, there's early voting going on right now.
Okay.
Early voting was yesterday, today, and goes through this Saturday. So those of you who don't feel
All week.
all week,
Okay.
all week, just check your places to go vote. It's early voting all week through Saturday.
Okay. Make sure there's no excuse not to vote. No, that's the thing. There's no excuse not
vote.
to vote.
Vote.
Definitely vote. So, Caleb, thank you. Miss Barbara, thank you. Coach, Mayor Diesel, thank you. And thanks to all of you out there. So for Coach Dan Diesel, I'm Alan Slaughter-Zinski for the Brevard Sports Network. Have a great night, everybody.
Today, it's about teamwork. It's about working hard. It's about having that discipline. It's about having that faith that you can accomplish anything that you want to accomplish.